Welcome back to Pixel for People 2024. Next in line, we have a Vertigo 95 doing Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So, whenever you're ready, go ahead and start the run. Also, move the mouse away from your live split.
Alright, all ready to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So, this is Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask glitches any percent. First off, this game came out 2 years after Ocarina of Time on the N64. This is not the N64 version though. I am running this on Wii VC using a GameCube controller. I think the GameCube controller is the preferred method of most of the runners for this game. So, any percent glitchless, it's pretty self-explanatory. We beat the game without utilizing any of the glitches that are in this game. Some of the glitches are things like ISG, which is infinite sword glitch, super slides, hyper extended super slides, bomb recoils, mega flips, hovering, equip swaps, action swap. There's a whole lot of them that we just cannot use in this run at all. So another thing about this run, or I guess pretty much all Majora's Mask speedruns, is that it starts with what runners call first cycle. First cycle, it's not really skippable. It's roughly 20 minutes long of the intro that we're doing here, and it's kind of boring and not really exciting. Not much is happening. So essentially, this is just really mashing through text for 20 minutes. There's a few gameplay sections scattered throughout them, but for the most part, it's a lot of just text. Thankfully, we are playing on the Japanese version, which offers faster text, which that's a thing for most games. So the goal of first cycle, which I could probably explain now, is just to bring it to day 3. There are 3 days, 72 hours. It's a 72-hour mechanic in this game, and if you fail to, achieve your goal in 72 hours, the moon is going to crash down, and you lose everything. So our goal for first cycle is to bring it to day 3, or night 3 rather, and make it to the clock tower by midnight. So we're getting ready to enter our first little bit of gameplay here. Just do a simple backwalk. Backwalking in this game is faster, and we would normally do it a lot. And that's it for that little bit of gameplay, and into more cutscenes. Very early of this game is very cutscene heavy, and being a glitchless run, you can't really skip most of the cutscenes that are just throughout. So I guess a little bit of the story. This game, again, is after the events of Ocarina of Time. Link is searching, I believe. I haven't paid attention to the story in a while now, but I believe he is looking for Navi, who had left him at the end of Ocarina of Time. He is navigating through the Lost Woods here, and he's attacked by the Skull Kid here. The Skull Kid, who has who is in possession of Majora's Mask, which is this powerful mask that really shouldn't be in the hands of anyone, because it's the mask that has conjured up the moon, and it's on a crash course for the area called Termina. So essentially, Majora here is playing a trick on Link and turns him into a Deku. And Majora also stole Link's Ocarina, which we need to. I guess we'll later see who needs it. And we're back into gameplay. Another little short cutscene. It's not as long as the other two so far. Not opening the door. So here's a thing that you can kind of skip. It's kind of a text skip, and I'm gonna try and see if I can get it. It's not really a big deal missing it. Okay, I didn't get it. If I'm not mistaken, it saves... It's a small amount of time. It's not really important.
So if I recall right, you have been playing Splatoon games before, right?
Yes, I have.
Is this a new addition to your speedrun catalog to play Majora's Mask?
No. Actually, this is... I played this game... I was speedrunning this game before the Splatoon games. Very recently, I started putting more focus into this game because I've been doing Splatoon for so long.
Right.
Yeah, just earlier this year, I had grinded to a sub 3 time, which is sort of a goal for many of the runners. I intend to push that a little bit further, though. But here's the Happy Mask salesman who is talking about he needs to get out of town. He wants to retrieve Majora's Mask that the Skull Kid had stole from him. So we're tasked with getting the mask back. But in order to do that, we need our Ocarina back to turn us back into human. Okay, so again, we need to advance to Night 3 as quick as possible. The fastest way of doing that is to... There's a flower off to our left. We're gonna fly up to the top of this building here, known as the Stockpot Inn. And we're actually gonna come and talk to Grandma here. Talk to Grandma's long story twice advances one full day, and we're on the final day already. But it's not quite night yet, so there's one more we need to do. So leaving east, Clocktown there, coming into south. Avoiding that dog. I'm gonna come over to West Clocktown, and there's a character that we are going to talk to, which will advance it a half a day. Talking to this scarecrow here, who loves to dance. We're gonna dance to the night. And it's the final night. So now that it's the final night, there's a few things we need to do. We're gonna go back into East Clocktown. There's gonna be a fairy we need to collect, and that fairy is gonna be important for getting our magic. And then we're also going to collect some money, because we also need to buy a bomb bag. So we sort of collect that stray fairy, and then we come back in here again. There's a chest in this room, normally not accessible on any of the days, other than the night here. It has 100 rupees for us. Normally there's a route that avoids getting this chest, because going for that chest slows down the in-game time a little bit. It slows down in-game time. Your segment time is going to be worse because of it. But routing rupees, it's kind of difficult. Your goal is to make it to the clock tower before it hits midnight. Anytime after that, you'll be losing time. So here we deliver the ferry that we picked up to the Clocktown ferry, and the Great Fairy here will give us our magic.
So since the category is glitchless, is there like any tricks we're going to see here?
There's a few tricks, yeah. Not in the sense of what a glitch run can do, but there's glitches.
Yeah.
Not glitches, but there's tricks. My bad. Later on, there's a thing called... We're actually coming up shortly. We do what's called a gainer. Normally, what you're supposed to do is you would play hide and seek with the kids around Clocktown here. They would give you a code to access their hideout, and you go to an area that gives an item, and then you trade the item, and in a second it would give you access to this flower right here. But we can sort of bypass that by just doing a gainer. It's kind of... I also do practice here for gainers. Anywhere not in the corner here, it's 1 frame. In the corner, it's 2. So it's definitely easier in the corner. Gainers are pretty important to, like, know and do. And just wait for midnight here to the strike. Again, if runners are not getting the chest that's in the stock pond inn area that we collected, it would sort of be midnight already. Even past it if your routing is not very good, which my routing for that is not the greatest. So it strikes midnight here, and what's currently happening actually in Clocktown is a festival known as the Carnival of Time. So it's fireworks, sort of supposed to be a celebration, but everyone's afraid of the moon that's currently coming down and it's going to crash and destroy the light.
Understandably so.
So now we enter the top of the clock tower. There's a bit more cutscene where Majora is essentially talking about how they can't, or we can't defeat them. I believe this fairy is called Tail. They're gonna hint us to the dungeon locations that we need, but we already know what, or rather I know what they are and what to do. So besides magic just being important later on, we actually need magic to spit out a bubble at Majora here. Who drops her ocarina, and we can get it back. So this cutscene here is Zelda teaching us the Song of Time, which is a really important song in this game. And before Link heads off on his journey, his search for Navi from the last game. And we learn the Song of Time, and just slight more cutscenes for... just a little bit more cutscenes left before the game actually can take off. So we're gonna play the Song of Time, and the moment we hit yes, we're gonna reset the console. We do that because the moment we press yes on that screen, the game is saved, so we can reset. And that skips, I don't know how long the cutscene is, but it's like a 30-second cutscene after that. So now we're in Cycle 2. The game can finally start. First thing I'm going to do is play play the Song of Time backwards. This is the inverted Song of Time. What this does is slow down the time and then re-enter the clock tower here. Talk to this guy. He pulls an organ out of nowhere, and he's gonna teach us the Song of Healing. The song is going to heal us, and we will be back in human form. This is the second to last, like, big cutscene to happen. Before the game actually picks up a bit. Entering this part of the cutscene, the reason why I played the inverted Song of Time earlier is there's two goals that we need to accomplish. One of the goals is to reach the ranch before 6 p.m. night of the first day. That gives me enough time because we have a lot to do within this cycle here. In order to get to the ranch, we need to get into the first dungeon and get the items in there. And then we'll go and beat the second dungeon, which grants us an item. Yeah. Our main goal is just to get to the ranch by 6 p.m. Our second goal is to get back to the ranch by a certain time, which we will later see. Just a little bit more cutscene here, or just text. We hit this owl here, which is actually a warp point, which will be important later on. And we enter into Termina Field. Equip the Deku Mask, because we're actually going to try farming a bomb drop. Okay, that's really nice. If I'm not mistaken, bomb drops are normally 20%. There are certain areas throughout the game where they're guaranteed. Certain enemies are 50%. So it's getting bomb drops out of grass like that doesn't happen a lot. But yes, here is the last of the cutscenes for a good while. So I would say, if there's anything to say, we can do it now. I think now's a great time.
Well, I do have a small announcement. Unfortunately, one of our runners, Kenshin, is dropping out from the marathon, unfortunately, with Super Castlevania 4. So we might have to find a backup for that or just skip the run altogether. But for the reason why we're here is to obviously gather money for Child's Play charity. Just imagine a kid in a hospital just laying, doing nothing. But what if you could just give them some consoles and games to play? Wouldn't that be so much better? I think so as well. So that's the whole point of the Child's Play organizations, to help kids to enjoy or to have some enjoyment while doing these hospital visits. So very, very good cause for a charity, I would say. But yeah, unfortunately, one of the runs had to be dropped out, so we're probably going to look for a backup for that, which will be happening later this marathon. Anyway, Vertigo, please continue.
Yeah, so at the ending of this cutscene, we see the Skull Kid here stealing Majora's mask. Why does he just have that mask, which has so much power in it? He just has it on him. Who knows? But yep, Happy Mask Salesman is the reason why this game takes place. We're just gonna backwalk through Road to Southern Swamp here, and we're gonna enter Southern Swamp. The first thing we're going to do is go to hop across those lily pads over there. We're gonna enter. There's a woods over in the area that we're gonna enter. And backwalking. Entering the woods of Mister here, the pathing is different on each day. So for day 1, the pathing taking now, day 2 is going to be different, and day 3 is different. There's a different area that has different pathing on the 3 days later. But any of the other days for this run doesn't matter. For both of the pathings, it's gonna be day 1. We talk to the witch here in the forest, the woods, and then we're gonna go talk to her sister, who is in a hut here. Tell her that her sister is injured, and she gives us a red potion to heal her, except we're not healing her. We're just gonna go on our way over here, and we're gonna go and do a trick that is probably the biggest reset heavy moment for this run. It's known as Big Octo Skip, and there's a very specific way of doing it. Alright, I got it. So there was a very specific position I needed to stand on that lily pad, and a very specific angle. And then I paused before there to get a frame perfect roll to make sure I landed up top on this stone here. And we skipped the big octo. Again, that's a pretty reset heavy trick when going for PB attempts. And then doing that, it's having to reset off of that and then sit through the entire 20 minutes again, first cycle. It's kind of painful. So it's a good thing we got bombs, because what we're gonna do here is known as a bomb boost. It's actually allowed in this. It's not a glitch. You're taking damage off of a damage source. And there's another one of the gainers needed to get to that grotto here. And then we're gonna come and talk to, I believe, the Majora's Mask randomizer community dubbed this guy Bean Guy. Bean Daddy. We need 5 beans from him. It was either the Majora's Mask community, randomizer community, or the Ocarina of Time. Considering this is sort of the same, just reusing the same stuff from Ocarina of Time, that character is the exact same as Ocarina of Time, so names are shared between the two games for most of the characters that are at least reused. I unfortunately fell down here, but there's kind of a skip you can do by doing this doorframe jump. It's pretty annoying. I find it difficult. You have to jump at a specific way to grab the area up there. It kind of skips having to go around the other side of the palace. And we are here. Our goal here is to listen to this monkey here, who is gonna teach us a new song. The song here is going to help us get into the first dungeon. So here's the Sonata of Awakening. Again, it's required to enter the first dungeon, which we'll be doing in a few minutes. The monkey is here. He's tied up because the Deku King here thinks the monkey is responsible for the kidnapping of his daughter, the princess. What we're going to do here is known as a pop-up. If I'm not mistaken, it's a one-sided collision, and it's a legal thing for glitchless. It is a legal thing for glitchless. Because you're not really... I don't really remember, like, the specifics of why it's allowed, but I just know it's allowed. So here we are learning our next song, the Song of Soaring. This will allow us to warp to any of the owl statues that we have hit. We already hit one, and we're gonna hit more later. So this is the area of the first dungeon. It's known as Woodfall. We're gonna have to go around to actually get to the entrance. That is actually a rare drop. I believe it's like 10%. Those guys, the other Deku, can either drop a Deku Nut, a stick, or some hearts if you're like low on health. So here we play the Sonata of Awakening, and it raises the temple. We get more nuts there. That's actually very important for later on. And then we pick up a stick. And we're entering Woodfall Temple. First thing we do is this jump there, or backflip. It's known as the Kazooie flip, and it just gets up to get us up to the platform much quicker than using the flower. Come down here, get a bomb drop. Enter this room to get the small key. Now I come over to the other side. To the door. Kind of move that block out of the way. And use the stick. Come over here. Light that torch. Putting a stick back in the torch kind of resets the timer. There's a timer on the sticks, and the stick would burn out if we don't go as fast as possible. But sticking it back into a fire source restarts the timer. And we need that to light that web to progress. More stick. There's torches around the room that we need to light. Normally you're supposed to fly across the room to get to the other side, but we can actually just do a recoil, and it gets us down to the floor we need to be much faster. So here's one of the benefits of playing this on Japanese, or any percent being on Japanese. I did a jump slash with the stick. The reason being is that we now have what's called a power crouch stab. Your crouch stabs take the last damage value that you've done, and the stick has a stick jump slash has the highest damage value. So considering we stored that damage value, our crouch stab has that same value. So we got the bow, but we're not quite done here yet. I'm gonna come up and fly over into that room. And fight this other mini-boss. Okay, so during that fight, what I was doing is setting up for a death warp. We're gonna grab the boss key, and then we're actually going to die. That's not good. Okay, so the way I set up the death warp, I grabbed the boss key, or I set the bomb before going into that little room, and the reason is because it's like the perfect distance for doing it. But I grabbed the boss key and then I die. What I got there is known as a fast death warp, and it's because the audio file for picking up the boss key there was still playing, so it didn't register the actual death audio file, which allowed it to just it played the faster death than it normally would have. So the reason why we're leaving the dungeon is because beating the first dungeon is not... beating it now, it's not faster. I think it's a lot slower. Reason being, one, you'd be more equipped later with the items you're gonna get, and two, beating that dungeon first has an additional cutscene that will play for beating it first. So you're actually going to beat another dungeon first, and come back to that one, and that cutscene will not play. Alright, so now we're entering Mountain Village here. There's items here for us to get. First, we're gonna come over here and hit this owl statue. And do more back walking over in this direction. Now we enter Twin Islands here. Not really exciting stuff in terms of movement. Do rolls. And more back walking. So after all of that, now we're in Goron Village. And we're here because there's a cave over here that we need to enter. Okay, the cave is over here. Normally you would have to talk to the owl to show where the platforms are. But if you, this is the other set day for those platforms. The platforms there will change if it's day 2, and it will change if it's day 3. Casually, you wouldn't know the pattern for those platforms, the invisible platforms. And you would need to talk to the item. The item we just got actually is the Lens of Truth, which helps us see these platforms. But it's not really required for this run. Or rather, the only requirement is coming up. One, it helps us see the ladder here. We spam the Lens of Truth here because it doesn't consume any magic by doing so. Kind of conserving magic. It's pretty nice. And don't need to spam it anymore. You don't really need the Lens of Truth for the ladders there, but what you really need the Lens of Truth for is this guy here. We reveal him with the Lens of Truth, we play Song of Healing, and we're essentially healing his trauma and putting him to rest. And the item we get out of that is the Goron Mask, which will more or less be our primary movement for the remainder of the run. Backwalking is pretty important until you actually achieve this mask, because we can now Goron roll. So what I did right there is equip the Deku Mask, and then equip the Goron Mask, and doing that actually skips, it's like a 3-second cutscene of Link, like, screaming, like what happened when we put on the Deku mask. And then we get hot spring water, pull the grave, Darmani's grave, and get hot spring water. Now I'm gonna play this a bit safe. I'm actually gonna come and melt this ice right here. And that's only because if you fail the hot spring water, you have to climb back up to the Goron grave again, which is very slow. What's in that grotto there is more hot spring water. Being a Goron, we can enter actual Goron village. And there's a baby crying. We gotta talk to the baby first, who is crying about their father not being there. And then we gotta go find his father. So we're just gonna enter the grotto here and get another scoop of hot spring water. And where is his father? He's just right over here. This is the location of where the Goron Elder here changes is another thing that changes every day. So we kind of melt them out of the ice. We tell him about how his child is missing him. He wants to go help him, but he really can't. He's old and slow. He's actually gonna teach us a song here. A song that he really can't remember. So we're only gonna learn half of the song. So this is the lullaby intro. It's only half of what we need to access the next dungeon. Gonna re-enter the Goron village. We're gonna play lullaby intro to the baby, who just happens to know the rest of the song. Okay, songs are it's kind of a joke that songs are just really hard in this game. But it's just a thing that happens. Like, every runner fails a song every once in a while. So now we have the full and complete Goron Lullaby. And now we're ready to enter the next dungeon. Next dungeon is just up this path here. Path to Snowhead. And then we enter Snowhead. There's sort of this wind blowing and we can't get any closer. So we're actually just gonna play the Goron Lullaby. And there's just an invisible Goron that's causing the wind. I'm not really sure why. But yeah, this Goron here's causing the wind. We put him to sleep. And a lot of runners joke that that Goron died. But he's perfectly fine. Do the Goron roll, and we're in Snowhead. This is going to be the first dungeon we fully complete. Get access to the rest of the dungeon. We roll across the bridge there. And there's like a little cutscene here, kind of showing, I believe, the gimmick of the dungeon. There's these ramps and all these different passageways, but we're gonna be skipping the main gimmick of the dungeon. We're gonna pull this block here, and there's a small key that's behind it.
How difficult it is to move around with the Goron form. It looks... it doesn't look janky. It actually looks like it's easily controllable.
It's pretty easy. I think the difficult part is if you were to bonk off of something, things can go wrong there. But it's quite easy to move around.
Yeah.
Compared to the 3DS version, they definitely changed some things for that version. So it's definitely different there. So what I'm doing here is Goron Bomb Boost. It gets us up onto these ledges a lot quicker than, especially in that room, doing the puzzle. And then we do this very specific roll to skip going around, and we get into this room here and fight the mini-boss of this dungeon. The Whiz Robe. What I found out not that long ago is that there are different types of Whiz Robes, and it makes sense. I also messed up a little cutscene skip there without him not doing the runaround. But yeah, there's an Ice Whiz Robe, and this specific Whiz Robe takes, I think it's double damage to the Goron. Then there's a fire one that it's not really in this run actually, but there's a fire one and it doesn't. I think it's half damage when using Goron. So yeah, beat the Whiz Robe mini boss and we get the fire arrows. That helps us with finishing a dungeon. First usage is to melt that ice. For this dungeon, or this trick here, is a trick here, and it's kind of hard. This is known as tunnel jump. I'm glad I got it. That version, rather, of tunnel jump is pretty difficult throwing the bombs. There's a different way I used to do it, but it's slower. So just throwing the bomb to blow up the snowballs there is much faster than the way I used to do it, which was use the fire arrow on the snowball. There's the second fight with Whiz Robe. Hopefully I can get the small cutscene skip this time. It's probably going to be difficult because of this second spawn. I don't know, I wasn't second hit wasn't proper. So I kind of missed. So now we collect this dungeon's boss key, and are ready for the boss. Sort of do that tunnel jump again. And that's pretty much it. I should also mention that the main gimmick of this temple is that there's a room that you go to, and it like raises a giant pillar in the center of this room here, and you knock out the sections of that pillar to allow you to get across, navigate a lot easier. So here is the first boss we actually fight. His name is Goat. Casually, you would roll around this room here and use the Goron, but it's slower to do so. So what we're actually going to do is get into a very specific spot with Link and shoot arrows at him. Thankfully, it didn't happen, but as the fight progresses, stalactites drop from the ceiling. And it's complete RNG, and a stalactite can fall directly in your line of sight, and it just really throws off the entire fight, and it sucks when it happens. But I definitely got good RNG there, so that's great. So now we pick up Goat's Remains, the first one we're going to be getting. And the first of the giants. Giant cutscene. If we had beat Woodfall first, we would have gotten this exact cutscene. But then there would have been an additional one after that. So beating this one or any other dungeon besides the first one, again, skips that cutscene. And the purpose of this cutscene here is to learn the Oath to Order. That song allows us to beat the game later. A thing you can do, it's not really a thing I feel comes up much, but we can actually go to the clock tower now and play that song. But it's not going to be good for us, considering we have only beaten one boss. There's an ending cutscene that plays out regardless if you have one giant or all of them. But if you don't have all four, that same timer where in first cycle, it's gonna play out and it's gonna be a lot shorter. So essentially you would still run the risk of a moon crash, and you would have to play Song of Time. Mentioning Song of Time resets the cycle, which is what we call here, as it showed in what we did in first cycle. So as we beat the dungeon, we have springtime for this region of Termina. And our goal is to do what's known as the Keg Challenge. There's a rock in this map here, and we need to carry the keg from one of the Gorons up here all the way over here. And we do this to get a keg license to where we can purchase the keg elsewhere. This is important for entering the ranch and for later on, towards the end of the run. The fuse for this specific keg is much longer than the other kegs that we will be getting. So this is kind of where things is scary. Walking this keg through this area here, there's some issues with the bridges here, and you can get what's known as a bridge pixel, Getting that makes you drop the keg, and one of those enemies there can hit the thing and explode it. So you would have to go back and get another keg. Thankfully, that did not happen. So we blow up the rock. And before we go back to get the license from that Goron, we do the Goron race. I don't know of a single runner that actually enjoys the Goron race here. And it's really bad. It's a lot of rubber banding. And you could normally lose because of it. So essentially, winning this race is almost luck. Because you need magic, and then they could steal the magic pots that you need to keep the Goron spikes here. They're kind of aggressive right now. You go top speed when you have what's known as spikes for Goron, so getting knocked out of it is not really good. You'd want to avoid getting hit on ramps like this here, because it would definitely knock you out of the spikes. Careful there. I've definitely lost a few races to getting hit in that last area. But thankfully, we finished the race. Rough start, but definitely better towards the end. What we got there was known as gold dust. It's really for the bottle, but it's also important for money later on, which we'll be selling. Okay. So now we get to pick up the keg license here. And now we're all set to go to the ranch. That's everything we need. And we're making ranch with perfect timing. This game has a ton of in-game time segments that's really important for a lot of the speedruns, actually. Or rather, most of them. And it's pretty important here. Failing to meet these time requirements, these time restrictions, normally means a dead run. But any percent only really has 2 that's important. So now we made it to the ranch here. The purpose for coming to Romani Ranch here is to actually get our horse back, which was stolen from us by the Skull Kid at the beginning of the game. So this is where our second goal comes in, and this segment, rather, I call this segment as aliens. We need to be back at the ranch by a certain time because the aliens here is going to be trying to abduct the cows. Optimally, this segment is pretty difficult. I'm definitely gonna play it safe on this segment to not mess it up. But it'll still be pretty fast. So we play this mini game with Romani, which is to... we're essentially practicing for the aliens by shooting these balloons. There's 10 of them. Alright. That is not one of my best times for that minigame. Was that 34? Yeah. I think the lowest I've gotten was a 27. Most runners can get sub 20, or the higher level runners. I guess I haven't really practiced that enough to actually reach a sub 20. And now that we learned Epona song, and we got our horse back. The other reason we actually needed to be in this area by 6 p.m. was that we needed to get a mask from over here. From Gorman Racetrack here, we need to race them for a mask that we use later on. I think our horse is puny and worthless, and I think that their, I guess, donkeys are better than Epona. So we just need to win this race, and then we'll get what they have for us. We'll get what, yeah. We'll get the mask we need from them. There are those little dirt patches that can slow you down if you run through them. But we won that. Now we get the Garo's mask. Everything, a lot of what we're getting is for later. So now that we got that, our goal is to head to Great Bay. And we're entering Great Bay Coast. just gonna use Goron to roll over to the shore. And there's a Zora out here that we need to save. Alright, and we're gonna push him ashore. I never spoke about version differences, but for Japanese here, you just need to push them, like actually push them, like this. But in the English version, the blue button, the blue button grab prompt would appear, and that would be how you push them in English. I'm not sure on any other version, the other versions of the game, but I would assume it's like English. There's way too many version differences between the games to really explain them all, but that's one of them. There's another one later. A little bit later. Yeah. Like after this, we're gonna watch a cutscene here. What I'm first going to do is play Unverted Song of Time. That is gonna put the time back to normal speed. And now we'll play Song of Healing. For the same reason as the Goron. We're getting the Zora mask. And if there's any, I think this is a perfect time for donations if there's any.
Currently, unfortunately, no more new donations, but like before, I would like to remind people that we're still raising money for Child's Play. You can use the commands !D, S, and P, which gives you the donation link, the schedule link, and a link for prizes as well. There have been some schedule changes to people apparently dropped out for unfortunate reasons, but we're still going to kick in for the day 3 because there's a lot of runs coming after Majora's Mask as well. So I hope you guys hang around for that. Until then, please continue, Vertical.
Yeah, so during that cutscene, a lot of runners like to play music or instruments, which I think is pretty cool. I unfortunately am not one of those runners. I cannot play any instruments, and I don't think I could play any music here. But for cutscenes like this category having a whole ton of cutscenes, there's definitely a ton of time to take standing and stretching breaks, which I think is pretty nice. That's pretty important. So the dive onto this platform is another, like, a version change between English and Japanese. On Japanese, the platform is a lot higher, so you need to, like, do what's called a dolphin dive, which is what I'm doing right now, to get on top of that platform to get the L. On English, you can just swim up to it and grab the ledge. So with Zora Mask, what we're doing now is entering Pirate's Fortress. More gathering items is needed. Sort of a weird thing, I guess another version difference. The guards here have less visibility to see you at nighttime. so it definitely makes navigating a bit easier than if it was daytime. We're actually gonna use their limited visibility to our advantage in like 2 minutes. First, we just need to navigate the Pirate's Fortress sewers. I guess another version difference worth mentioning is that Zora swimming, as opposed to the Goron rolling in all versions of the game, Zora swimming is a lot different for Japanese compared to English. Zora swimming in Japanese has a much wider turn radius than English. And it definitely, going in between the two versions, definitely, it's noticeable. So we got through sewers, and now we're entering Pirate's Fortress interior. So now we're going to use the fact that the pirates have less visibility at night to our advantage. We're actually going to enter this room here. Okay, got it. On Japanese, at nighttime, you can enter the lower door here and actually get that beehive to remove them from the room. Normally, if it's daytime or in English, you'd have to go to the upper room and shoot them through, like, the bars that's up there. That skips having to go up and do more pirate stuff, which I think is pretty nice for this category. And the item we got is the hookshot. So now I'm actually trying to get this jump. It's kind of difficult. And get a Zora egg. More items for later. And we're actually gonna soar out of here. We're gonna go back to Clock Town. I'm gonna do a little bit of a shopping segment. Kind of late on time, but it should be fine. So the aliens will spawn in at the ranch at 2:30. It's not quite 2:30 yet, so I definitely still have a lot of time left. And I will actually fail if the aliens get to the barn by roughly 3:45. To definitely avoid that, I will be playing Inverted Song of Time a lot sooner before then. Again, optimally, you would not play an Inverted Song of Time at all. So yeah, a little shopping there. We sold the gold dust. We picked up a fish. More stuff for later. And then we bought another keg and some bomb shoes. All for later. Now that we're done with that, we're rolling to the Icona area. Play Epona song, and then we'll ride Epona over the fences here. That's not great. These blue enemies here jinxes you, which removes the ability for you to use your sword for, I believe... I don't really know how long, but it's like a minute, 45 seconds. It's not long, but it's not great that it happened at all. Guess I can stall out time a bit. So what I'm doing here is setting up a bomb to then play Sonata of Awakening, which wakes this guy, and then the bomb, if done correctly, yeah, the bomb should damage him and stall his walk cycle. I gotta set that up again. I did not. This is actually not great. Alright. Normally you won't let him get up this far, but I forgot to shoot him with an arrow, which would have stalled him again. So we take that fight with Captain Kita, and he is going to give us the Captain's Hat, which allows us to access the graves in this area. In the graveyard. Salutes 07. So now with Captain's Hat, we're gonna come over to this grave here with the guy circling it. And they're gonna break open the grave for us. So we light these torches to enter this room, and we're going to be fighting an Iron Knuckle, which is a very scary enemy, as it can one-hit us because it does 4 hearts of damage. Okay. You can do that fight in a very particular way to avoid getting hit. But if he hits you, you're losing 4 hearts, and in any percent here, you're going to die. Which would not be great for in-game time. You can fortunately take a hit in glitchless 100% because you definitely have more hearts when you reach here. But ideally, you still don't want to get hit. So I don't remember who this is, which person. I know who they are, but I don't remember their name. There's 2 of them, and they're teaching us the Song of Storms here. And now we leave the graveyard. I'm actually going to play the song now. The reason being is because, for whatever reason, on the Japanese version of this game, playing that song makes the area a lot darker than it normally is. I'm not sure why that happens, but it's very difficult to see when it gets darker. Especially for what's coming up. I sort of need it. So we're entering Iconic Canyon here. Normally you need to beat the 3rd dungeon to get access to the upper area, but we can actually do a pretty precise hook shot to that tree in the distance to bypass needing the item from the 3rd dungeon. So just past 2:30, the aliens have just arrived to the ranch. But there's nothing really to worry about since we slowed down time. I don't think I mentioned that equips for this game is pretty difficult. You're trying to be fast and remembering everything you need on your buttons. It can be hard. You could lose time, a lot of time. I'm just menuing incorrectly, having not the greatest equips. So here's the other brother of that guy that we got this song from, and we play the song for him, and he's like remembering his brother, and he's not like cursed or whatever anymore. So definitely here's another one of those cutscenes, just like a standing, stretching break. If you're like laying down, since it's, if you're at least US, it's quite late. Probably get to bed. But if you're like sitting, yeah, definitely stand and stretch. Bathroom breaks is nice. I guess a weird thing about cutscenes in this game is that cutscenes like this happening, Link is still on the map. Link, I believe, has to be present. And I'm not sure if it was like noticeable, but there was like a little, the fairy was like in the corner in one of the shots. I think on the practice ROM you probably be able to see him because there's like a hover button that you can do. So yeah, playing the Song of Storms for this guy here gets the water wheelhouse going, and it removes the Gyptos. We are tasked with entering this house and getting what's inside. So this is the little girl's father who had left the house, and he's kind of been too involved with his research on the enemies that were surrounding the house here. That's the reason why they're surrounding the house, because of that, and kind of went too far with his research and pretty much became one of them. So we play Song of Healing, and we essentially heal him from the Gypto curse. Now that is everything that we need to do before the alien segment. Now we can actually go deal with them. When you're not having slow time, if you don't slow down time, I think the latest you can be here is 3:30. So we're definitely a lot earlier than we should be, which is actually great, because it avoids messing up this segment, which is kind of tight without good movement. So it's kind of worth mentioning that the aliens move based on the timer. So we have to re-speed up time again. And you can probably see it's probably a lot darker now since I did that. It's not exactly... I mean, it's okay to see, but it's definitely visually darker. So for aliens here, there's only 2 waves you actually need to kill. The initial wave and then one more wave after 4 a.m. rather. And then you're all good to go. You'd have saved the cows from abduction. So now we just need to wait for 5:15. And then we would win. Oh, that's the most I've ever gotten. There's like a weird thing you can do. Most people do. If you like bonk on the side of the barn, you just get these rolls in place. But with that, that's really the last of the goals that we need to do. So now it's just completing the rest of the game. I start off with coming back to Iconic here. I'm gonna grab this fairy. Wait, am I? Okay, I'm fine. And I'm actually going to be entering the well here. Where a lot of the Gibdos are. So this is about here where a lot of the stuff that we gathered earlier comes into play. Like the beans, the fish, the nuts. That's all important. Each of these guys want a specific item. It's probably hard to tell what they are in Japanese, but they definitely give hints in English. Try to do a setup there with the bomb chew, but kind of messed it up. Didn't get the bomb chew out. And try and get these shots off onto this big Poe, which I believe is 2 frames. Kind of blanking on my equips. That's normally a bad thing if you're trying to go fast. So we defeated that big Poe to come to this guy who actually wants the big Poe. And then the milk bottle that we got from saving the cows from the aliens we'll use on the last guy that's up here. Light the torches, and we get the item that's here. It's the mirror shield. I think a lot of people don't really like this mirror shield design. But they definitely went with this design for it. It's a lot different from the one that's in Ocarina of Time and the other games that the mirror shield actually appears in. But now that we got the mirror shield, we can come back to... We're now coming back to Woodfall Temple, and we're actually gonna beat it. It's a lot easier having the hook shot for this dungeon, as we could just do things like that. Not having to do the backflip again, and then this room coming up. And considering that we have the boss key already, we could just go straight to the room with the boss door. This room has some dragonflies in it, which is, like, the worst enemy that's in this game. Only one of them bothered me this time, though. So that's good. Usually they're both bothering me. And it messes up, like, your hook shot. And if they, like, hit you, you're losing time. And then I got the quick kill on Adola there, which I have never hit in a run yet, because I've been messing it up. But, yeah, you can stun lock Adola here in a certain way. You can manipulate him to jump at you. And then again, with the crouch stabs, you're storing that damage. And it would only take 10 hits. Yeah, that's definitely the first time I've gotten that. We have Adol's Remains, the second one, and I would say we're half done. So for beating Woodfall Temple here, it kind of clears the area out of the poison. But that's not really a concern for any percent. all we just need to do is leave. And the next area we're heading is back to Great Bay. We're gonna head up this ladder and entering Lakeside Laboratory, I believe it's called. I think that's also what the Smash stage is called. But yeah, we're here to dump the Zora egg in that we got earlier. And we're gonna go back to Pirate's Fortress because there's more in Pirate's Fortress. Only thing now is that we're heading back into Pirate's Fortress during the day. They have their full visibility, and there's only one section where it's difficult to move around in, and it's this beginning part, but it's not really an issue, because I typically wait. If I did the same thing as earlier, this guard right here would have seen me. So I kind of wait for them to pass, and then I'll continue to where I normally go. We don't have to do sewers again since we have the hook shot. We could just hook shot the torch and we're back inside already. So one of the eggs is in this area right here, and what we do is kind of do a jump slash off of that wall to recoil into this area. That's one of the eggs down. Now we could just leave. Kind of do this little jump around that little slope there to get into here. And here's the next egg. This egg is a bit weird on Japanese, because you can potentially catch a fish that's in the tank with the egg, but I didn't do that. That's not an issue with the English version. And up and over here will be the last egg we'll be getting from here. Unfortunately, this is the only one that we need to fight one of the guards here. The other two, we were able to just skip them. Alright, guard's kind of not behaving. And that's the eggs. All of the eggs in Pirate's Fortress. We don't need to go back there again. I just dump these eggs that we got into the tank. Alright, that's all the eggs that we have on us. There's actually 3 more we now need to go get. And it's over in Pinnacle Rock, over here. The fastest way of moving as Sora is doing what's in the water. It's known as dolphin diving. Okay, I tried to do, like, surface dolphin diving, but I failed it, so I'm just gonna go over to the signs down here and move. Normally, what you need is a seahorse to guide you through this, because there's invisible walls that if you hit them, you'll void out and get taken back to the beginning of the area. But considering I just know the path, I don't really need the seahorse, and I definitely bypass the need for getting it. Considering the route that I'm doing, I really can't even get the seahorse because what you need is the picto box. You need the picto box to take a picture of one of the pirates in Pirate's Fortress and show it to the fisherman who's like in Great Bay Coast. Kind of going through Pinnacle Rock here and killing the eels in a very specific way because it's faster, and I know which eel has an egg. That doesn't change. And these are the last 3 of the eggs. And get back to the lab and continue on. We will take advantage of that void, the invisible walls, to get back to the beginning here and just leave. We can kind of do the same thing by not going into the 2 rocks there, and it spawns us out over here, which is quicker to get back over to the lab. Dump the remaining eggs that we have on us. That was not the equip I was supposed to do. equips, again, is quite hard to, like, memorize and know them. Just having to repause to get your item that you need and just loses time. I feel like it's like that in every Zelda game, not just this one. So the Zora eggs hatched, and they just form themselves into essentially a music sheet for a song. We get the new wave bossa nova, and we're ready to go into the next dungeon. So, much like the death warp I've done at the beginning of the run, there's actually 2 more that I'm able to do later, but I'm actually going to skip those just for safety. So I'm gonna catch this fairy here. And now we're good to go. We play New Wave Bossa Nova. Watch the cutscene, and then we'll be entering the 3rd dungeon, Great Bay Temple. So entering Great Bay Temple. Great Bay Temple is this game's water temple. Casually, it's definitely not easy. In the speedrun sense, it's also not easy. It's a pretty difficult dungeon to do optimally, mainly because of just the way water works. So definitely see what we can do. entering this first room, what we're gonna try and do is do a water wheel, a turnkey skit. So I'm setting up a very specific way to get onto this platform. And then we can just roll across, and we skipped an entire thing of having to push an underwater turnkey. Next, we're doing a very specific movement to actually get an underwater bonk to grab the sludge. Alright, another gainer there. Not the greatest, but it's fine. I'm gonna come down here into this passageway. And entering this room, we're gonna perform what's known as early BK. Okay, I messed it up. Normally, you're supposed to come back into this room once you get the dungeon item, fight a mini-boss, and then you can progress. With a very specific angle on the stick, just outside of the top notch, you can do this jump to get to the boss key early. Come down here, grab a small key. Then we come into this room here, and we're going to go fight the mini-boss. And here's the mini-boss, Wart. Yeah, this mini-boss is very... It's a pretty difficult mini-boss in any percent. What we're doing is trying to wait for Wart's eyes to open, throw a bomb in it to damage it. Damage it down 3 times, then it drops all of these, like, eyes off, and then it's kind of chaotic after that, trying to, like, manage. So what we normally do is just really run around the room and drop bombs. Just to, like, get rid of most of, like, the eyes that's just hopping around trying to get to you. Just try and find, like, a good spot where you get a good line of sight on Wart when he has his eye open. I think that was a pretty average fight that I would have. Not great, not good, not good, not bad. And now with that, we have the ice arrows. Kinda want more bombs. I don't think the bombs are really necessary for the remainder of the run, but it's nice to have.
Can I jump in with the donation here?
Yes.
We have $10 from Ninja Penguin 8, who says, "Doing great, Vertigo. Let's go P for P day 3. Thank you very much for the $10 donation, Ninja. Currently, our total is $2,174 for Child's Play charity, and we are hoping to reach at least 2.5K, which would be amazing. You can contribute for the donations by clicking the link on the chat right now using !D, S for the schedule, and P for the prices. We have some awesome prices here. Steam, some gift cards which you can redeem. I think there is a $100 Steam gift card as well, starting from $20 gift cards and going all the way up to 100 gift cards. So there's some also almost awesome prices. Also, there's some custom artwork from Parlock, which you can also get if you just get some donations in. So those are some prizes you can get as a little bonus for the good cause charity here.
Okay, yeah. What I just did right there is known as a Zora high ledge grab. It's a pretty nice looking one. I'm glad I got it first try. Normally this enemy right here can be in my way and mess everything up. So it feels good that he cooperated. So yeah, we're about halfway done. All we just need to do right now is reverse the water flow and continue on. Yeah, and there's the turnkey under the water that we didn't get earlier. But it definitely saves time not going for it. So now we reverse the water. Everything is going the opposite direction. What we'll do now is actually equip Goron and just void. Voiding is gonna put us back to the last door we exit out of, which is great for where we're trying to go. And here's a thing coming up that I hope I can get. Ah, I went too late. Alright, it's fine. What I could do there is do a dive up onto the water wheel here, and it kind of skips having to go around like this. Normally what you're supposed to do is freeze the water, and it would stop this water wheel from moving. But on the Japanese version, the water wheel doesn't freeze straight like it would on English. So unless you like know how to freeze this thing, the water, it's not really gonna be straight at all for you to walk across. Now I'm not getting the faster way of doing the dive up onto it. I have to deal with the slower way, which I can't say I'm as practiced on. did eventually get it though. And now we're in what's known as Seesaw Room. Here's a room where you're meant to use fire arrows. You mount the ice that's like above the seesaws to gain height. Well, we can actually skip all of that, and I'm glad I got that second jump. That second jump is much harder than the first one. But doing those jumps skips another equip of having to put fire and ice arrows on. So pretty much other than that last room, I think this dungeon was actually pretty good. There still is the boss, though. Which shouldn't be that bad. And we're at the boss. So, Great Bay Temple's boss is a giant fish. His name is Georg. Community likes to call him George. So, hopefully the George fight goes well. The way I do this fight is like to shoot him with arrows and then swim at a very particular way against a wall. To like damage him. And that's the first phase of the fight. Second phase, he sends out the little babies. Baby fish. And essentially the same thing. And there's George. I've definitely had moments where that fight went really wrong. I'm gonna pick up the heart piece. It's not really needed. I'll just pick it up anyway. I typically skip that heart piece because I would normally start setting up for a death warp that I'll do soon. But I can't really go for it because I have Fairy with me. But yeah, that's 3 dungeons down, just 1 more left. Before we fight Majora. Play Song of Soaring to soar out to... I Kana Canyon. The last area we need to be in. So much like the other dungeons, we need a song to even get access to it, so that is what we'll be doing right now. Just trying to set up for it, get resources. I believe that's actually the last gainer. Kind of roll or move along this firewall thing. Not really sure what it is. I know in the 3DS version, it's actually... it looks more like a firewall, or not really a wall, a ceiling, floor. But typically, fire actually damages Zora and Deku Link to where you would void out. I think I should be fine the time I actually need my sword. Blow that away. We come back to this sunblock, shine light on it, and we get access to I think his name is Egos du Icona. The guy who will give us the final song. It looks like the Jinx wore off in the cutscene too, so that's nice to have happen. The way these guys move is pretty RNG. It's not really fun when they're walking around like that. Especially in glitchless 100%. In glitchless 100%, you're on a really strict timer. But that's that fight. So yeah, again, after this cutscene, I would normally be low health, and I would be able to death warp. But for safety, I'm not going for it. I would just take the slower way out. And here we're learning the Elegy of Emptiness, the final song. Final song of the game, and probably the most notable one about the game, considering the whole not copy pasta, creepy pasta regarding this guy here, Ben. Now we got the song. We are set to go to the final dungeon. Good on resources, not needed. Before we get to the final dungeon, we have to traverse Stone Tower. And the Stone Tower climb. Which is probably one of my favorite segments in the run. Just trying to do this optimally, I find really enjoyable. I don't trust this Keese, yep. The Keese has actually knocked me off before. It's kind of evil. Of course, falling down and voiding out would mean that we would have to do all of this over again. All the song playing, all the hook shots. It's not a fun time. I've definitely had it happen before. Yeah. Normally I could just hold straight up and roll off there and be okay, but that rock was pretty close. And we're at the top of Stone Tower. Getting ready to enter Stone Tower Temple. with that, we are in Stone Tower Temple. First half of this dungeon is quite nice. I definitely love it as well. Put these crates on the switches because we need to play Elegy a few more times. That is the wrong song. The way I play this song specifically is, since I'm using a GameCube controller, I'm using the full C-stick. There's a few songs that I use the full C-stick on, and I'm not sure if that's the greatest idea, but I definitely do it. So I believe that this is actually the last elegy we need to do. I'm gonna play one more song though, and it's actually another variant of the Song of Time, which is the Double Song of Time. And this speeds up the day. It goes to the next day or night cycle. So this makes it night of the third day. It definitely would make things a bit tight, but it should be fine. I kind of do this room in a very specific way with the bomb shoes that I got earlier. And it blows up the Armos to get a small key. I guess it's also worth mentioning that I like this dungeon because the song is probably a fan favorite. It's definitely a great song. But here we are, entering possibly the worst room in the entire game. Mirror room. You have to shine the light right here onto these mirrors. But the issue is that these enemies are just constantly spawning and just messing with you. So you can't get like a good angle going. But I've definitely learned this room to work out most of the time. It's a very hard thing. This room is very difficult for a lot of new runners of this game. I know I definitely struggled with it when I was learning and starting out. Sort of do a bomb boost here. And then we can actually just do a side flip, side hop. And we get like the Deku Flowers from the Gust of Wind there. Entering this room here. Stick jump slash. Our crouch stab now has stick damage. kind of played that fight wrong, but it's fine. This is another area, or this is the other area where you would start setting up for the Death Warp. But I'm unable to do that. So now we have light arrows. And we're leaving a dungeon. There's not much more to do in this dungeon. So what we actually have to do is flip the temple. Okay, that should be good. That should work. Okay. So what I did there, it's kind of an elegy skip, skipping the what would actually be the last elegy usage, but doing this very specific setup against that wall, you can get a good angle on that crystal that we just shot. And essentially, you shoot the arrow and then get on the switch, and the block moves through the arrow to hit the switch. It's not it's not really a glitch since it's not really phasing through. I'm not really sure on the whole stuff about that, but I know it's allowed. So with that, we flip the temple, we're coming over here. We're gonna try and do a very specific jump. To skip a large portion of inverted stone tower. That is also something I have never gotten in a run, so it's nice to get. Normally when you try and shoot this guy, you're on perfect magic, and you can't afford to miss one shot, or else you just have to give up and come back for it after this mini-boss here. So now we're at the mini-boss that holds the boss key. Gomez? Not really a difficult fight. We do stick jump slash again. I say it's not difficult, kind of having a hard time right now. It's not going the way it normally would go. Well, at least I have the fairy, so that's a good thing. was not really a clean fight. I think the rest of the dungeon was good though. We can grab the boss key and make our way to the boss. Now we're currently in what's known as final hours. Night of the final day, past midnight. You actually have the numbers ticking down. Perfectly fine. We have enough time to actually do what we need to do. Get a precise hook shot on this chest here. Now, normally what's in this chest is the Giant's Mask, the way they expect you to, or casually beat this boss, but we're actually skipping it. I think we're good on resources too, because I can just go straight here. Me from like 3 years ago probably would have picked up that chest, the Giant's Mask. But I've definitely practiced this enough to know how to do it. So here's Twin Mold, there's 2 of them, and it's a bit RNG with the way they move. But it turns out that they're actually weak to the elemental arrows. So the blue one here is actually weak to the fire arrows, the red one is weak to the ice. They take 4 times as much as damage to those 2. I believe is double damage for light arrows. So that's the reason why we're skipping the Giant's Mask and fighting them with only arrows. Let's wait for this next one to spawn. That was a really good fight. That, like, really good. Normally, the way they move is RNG, and they can go into the ground a lot sooner than you would like, but that was definitely good RNG. With that, we got the last of the remains, and now we're set to fight Majora. Now, the reason why we played Double Song of Time when we did is to make sure that when we beat this boss, it's already past midnight, and we can just go to the clock tower, the top of the clock tower. We don't have to wait around for it to hit midnight. After this cutscene, we can head over to Clocktown and get ready for the final boss. to start off the Clock Town. And we're at the top of Clock Tower. First, pick up some magic. Play Oath to Order, and we are now in the final cutscene. So I think that this is a perfect time for donations, announcements. So now that we played Oath to Order, here's all the giants coming together to help stop the moon as it tries to come down and destroy Termina. And help the four giants, they succeeded in stopping the moon from crashing. But that doesn't lead us to Majora just yet. The mask here feels like it's done with Skull Kid, and it has its own agenda. It wants to bring forth the destruction anyway. now we're on the moon. Or rather, in it. Where we will find Majora. And we'll actually fight it. Now, in the English version of the game, this fight is actually really hard to do with limited equipment. What are the equips? That should be it. But because of power crouch stab, it's much easier than fighting him in English. Fighting Majora in English, it's really hard for the reason that after the first half of this phase, the remains that we collected comes alive and starts roaming the room and firing at us. That's really the only thing that makes the fight hard. They come alive, and you're gonna start shooting at us randomly. If we keep them off camera, they really won't shoot at us. Okay, that's not how I wanted to end first phase, but it's fine. So we're entering Phase 2, Majora's Incarnation. This guy is quite easy, again, with power crouch stab and the Japanese version. Alright, well, I'll have to set up again. He kinda got damaged by the Sora boomerang. So throwing a bomb in the center of the room, I think the coordinates is 0, 0, it just damages the whole area where he's walking. So Incarnation's down. Time is actually coming up very soon. But here's Majora's Wrath. I'm gonna try and manipulate them in a certain way. And that's time. That is Majora's Mask, 80% glitchless. It may not seem as exciting because it's glitchless. I know most people have that, like, viewpoint, but this is definitely a pretty fun category. I definitely enjoy it. Also, a runtime of 3:01:23. That is really solid run. That is actually my second best run off of PB. So that's really good, even with the safeties that I've done.
That was a good run indeed. I'm so used to seeing the 80% that seeing glitches was actually pretty refreshing here. So thank you for that, Vertigo. Any shoutouts?
Definitely the Majora's Mask community. All of them. The speedrun community, the randomizer. I've definitely learned stuff through the randomizer to apply to the speedrun. Sort of the same vice versa. Many people who were also running this category trying to get a sub 3 time. They haven't been really pushing as much anymore, but they definitely pushed me to get a sub 3, which I do have. And I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you again, Vertigo. We will be right back after this short intermission, and we'll play some X-Men Origins by JBHU.